Many of you that know me know my story. You know about my stroke many years ago, and 7 to be exact. But many probably don't know that, or maybe you do, that I've truly had to relearn how to live life. I mean, I've had to literally learn how to walk, talk, breathe, and do all that all over. While I was in the hospital, I had to go through physical therapy to do these things. You know, I had a respirator nurse that basically taught me how to breathe. There were times he would come in and he would say, because he called me Lito in the hospital, okay, Lito, you need to slow down. You're breathing too fast. All right, you need to speed up because now you're breathing too slow. Really trying to fine tune how to breathe because I didn't know how. And in that, I've really had to, even in my normal life, relearn how to do everything again. I don't share this very often. I only share it with a select few that need to hear it. But more and more I'm thinking about it, the more and more I'm realizing as I've been living life with people and seeing people, a lot of us need to learn how to relive life. Maybe what you got going on is not that of a stroke. Maybe what you've got going on is, something simple to what most people think, because a stroke is so dramatic. My thrombosis was so dramatic. I was on the verge of death. Many people thought I was going to die. But even emotional damage can be a place where you have to learn how to relive, because the way you've been living is not correct. It is not what was intended. And you have all these things inside of you that tell you this is the way it's supposed to be, when really it's not. I mean, for me, when I was in the coma, I realized my relationships with people were very transactional. Not on purpose, not manipulative, not direct, but I realized I was with a lot of people because of what we could do for each other, ministry wise. And so I when a new season came and new people came into the picture, I kind of moved on, because I figured, okay, these new people need me now. I need these new people. And I moved on. Again, it was very, whether you want to think about it that way or look at it that way, very, very transactional. And so I had to relearn how to live life. I had to relearn how to emotionally connect with people. I had to relearn how to emotionally connect with my own children. Because I was very image driven. My kids have to be this and have to be that, and all about the perfection side of things, and we've got to look good, as a family unit. We can't have any bad reflections of who we are, because it reflects on me as a parent. It reflects on us as a family, and we can't have that. And so I realized how transactional even that was. And so as I begin to relearn how to live life, I began to relearn how to do things very differently. One of the things that, I was saying, and it's not the first time I've said it, when everything has come crashing down. I told my mom that I have to hurry up. I have to get back. There's a lot of things that I still got to do, and I still got to say, and I still got to, and she really put in my head and really made me think about, what do you have to do? And I realized there's a lot of things in this life that we think we have to do, and we make it so big that we think if that doesn't happen, the world is going to come crashing down. So I started just thinking about things, and I'm laying in that hospital bed, fighting for my life. And if I'd happened to die, if I'd happened to not make it through that episode, that would have been it. There ain't nothing worse in this life than not having a second chance to rebuild, re-strengthen, regrow. Because then that's it, it's done. So with this new approach in life, I begin to look at things very differently. I begin to look at, am I going to die if this doesn't happen? Is it really the end of the world? And like even with my own emotions, I had to learn, and I used to tell myself, I came up with a phrase for myself. I'm not mad, I'm just frustrated. And frustration is something I can deal with. And so in that, I started to relearn how to live life and relearn how to manage my emotions. And I can go into depth into each one of these things that I'm saying. And I may do that. There may be a new series from me coming, talking about relearning how to live life. And again, I emphasize the point of relearning how to live life. Especially when trauma happens. No matter what the trauma is. It could be physical, like a stroke. It could be emotional, just damage. We really need to learn how to relive life. And even sometimes as life changes, those changes now bring a new direction. So going into that new direction, we need to relearn how to live life, because it's not going to be the same. As stages of life happen and as children grow and as, now it's just you, or it's just, you and your significant other, or even without kids, something changes in your life and you've got to learn how to relive because it's different. I don't know. Maybe you don't have these issues. Maybe living life is easy for you. But I know for me, I've had to relearn how to live life. I've had to redevelop the relationship with my kids. I've had to redevelop relationships with people that I intentionally or unintentionally hurt by my actions. I've had to rebuild trust. I've had to rebuild my image, And again, it's all changes from within. I've read several books because one of the things they said was I would never be able to control my emotions again. So you don't tell a person like me that. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what are emotions? Started studying that. Okay, so how do I recognize emotions? There were moments where I would get such a rush of emotion that I would lose my breath. And I thought maybe that's why I didn't learn how to breathe right after, the stroke and whatever. And I realized that rush of emotion is what literally took my breath away. Sometimes I wonder if that's what anxiety is. It's just a rush of emotions that we cannot handle, or a rush of the overwhelming things of life that we can't handle, and we lose our breath and we lose our focus and we lose sight of reality for a second. And we need to learn how to manage and how to figure out, the way out, or figure out the emotion itself. Like I said, I had to, frustration is something I can deal with. We need to break it down into something we can deal with. Break it down into its smaller parts and start working on those smaller parts so that we can fix the overall. I think that's what it is. Again, it's all these small parts coming together, causing this big eruption. And we just need to learn how to manage the small parts. Like with my kids, I had to learn how to treat them differently, especially now that they're adults. And even recognizing, even as children, I could have been a little bit more different, with the way I dealt with things. I could have been more responsive than reactive. I could have been, there were so many things I could have, should have, would have. And that's another thing. We can't focus on the coulda, shoulda, would haves. All we can do is say, okay, that was an issue. Let's fix it. And let's move on from here. Let's start over. Even if it means rebuilding. That's one of the things I've had to do many times. As the structures fall to the ground and I'm standing amidst the rubble, I've had to rebuild brick by brick. In fact, right now I'm in a place of rebuilding because the structure has been broke down brick by brick. And I think it's okay. Because the structure was for the time frame that it was. And now, I'm in a different place, so new buildings and new structures need to be erected and built. So in relearning how to live life, I have to relearn how to navigate this new landscape, this new city, this new structure, this new building, whatever it is. I need to relearn how to be in this place. And I think that's one of the things that I want you to understand, that, relearning how to live life is taking account of where you are right now. Almost like day one. Almost like there was an illustration a long time ago God gave me about how sometimes life is like an old school video game, like an old Nintendo game. And you get to a point in the game and the game freezes. And you're so afraid to hit the reset button because you're afraid if you hit the reset button, you're going to lose the whole progress you've come to this point. And I feel like God told me one time when that thought came to my head, God told me, well, that just gives you the insight now. Now you know where all the little quirks were. You knew where all the little hidden rooms are. So you know the way to get here. You know how to get here. You know how to make it this far. So all we're doing is restarting the game and getting it this far and going forward. Because sometimes that's what happens. Life freezes. And we don't know how to go forward. And we're afraid to hit restart because we think we're this amount of age, or we're this old, or we're that old, and it's too late for all this. It's never too late. I'm 52, relearning how to manage my emotions. I was 44, like a child, relearning how to walk, talk, and breathe again. It's never too late to start over and relearn how to live life. Be blessed, y'all.